We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some offseason speculation around the future of Brock Boeser. It appears as though his time in Vancouver has come to a close, but where might he end up next season? So who are some of the teams that are rumored to be interested in talking to the pending free agent? Plus, we have some uncertainty around a couple of GMs around the league, according to a few executives and insiders around the NHL. Pierre LeBrun speculating the possibility of the Bruins making a change with Don Sweeney. We'll discuss what happened there. The New York Islanders as well, some calling for Lou Lamoriello to go. We'll discuss what that situation's like and how ownership should be handling things. Obviously, some trade speculation around both those teams as well. The New York Rangers, an interesting name, has emerged as a potential new head coach. Plus, Isaac Howard has won the Hobey Baker, but could he be a trade piece for the Lightning this offseason after failing to come to terms on a new contract? Gabriel Landeskog's playing a hockey game tonight for the first time in over 1,000 days. Lots of playoff updates and injuries as well coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. Let's start things off with a few quick hits around the league. First up, we actually have news from the NHL waiver wire here today. The Seattle Kraken have placed 2 players on waivers, most likely not going to get picked up this time of year. We have defenseman Cale Fleury and forward John Hayden. Cale Fleury is going to be a pending UFA. He would have been an RFA, but he's going to be a Group 6 unrestricted free agent, which means he hasn't played enough pro games to become restricted, that he's going to have the right to be unrestricted. So I'm not sure if that played a role here for the Kraken to see if another team kind of wants to give him a couple of games as a dry run for next year or not, but Fleury is available, and John Hayden will be on waivers too. So most likely both players get reassigned to their American Hockey League affiliate. I would suspect with the AHL playoffs getting underway here shortly, that could be more than anything just to kind of help them get back down there and help the Coachella Valley team for their potential playoff run. A bunch of injury updates and roster moves. The Edmonton Oilers tonight got Stuart Skinner and Matthias Ekholm back. Leon Draisaitl is still close. Not quite ready yet, but he is getting better. Jake Wallman also getting closer, but not quite ready. Evander Kane continues to be, I guess they're calling him progressing, hoping to have him for playoffs, but not sure yet. Trent Frederick, of course, who did play a whopping 7 minutes in his debut and got hurt again, is expected to be early in their first round series. No guarantee for game 1, but early in that series is what we're being told. And the Oilers they're actually playing, as I record this video right now, against the Sharks. And Ekholm had left the game. He had fallen a couple of times kind of on his own. Wasn't really sure what had happened, but he went down the tunnel and hadn't returned, at least as I started to record. So I'm not sure if Ekholm will be back in tonight's game or not, but that could be another important piece that they're dealing with there, an injury. Ekholm's super important to that team. So we'll see what happens there on that front. The Ottawa Senators today recalled forward Hayden Hodgson. He got into the lineup tonight as the Senators had a playoff-like game. Now, obviously not a playoff game, but it felt like it as they did battle the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, the Canadiens trying to clinch their playoff spot, and the Ottawa Senators trying to kind of secure wildcard 1. I think that's the team's preference to remain in that spot if they can, because they should hopefully line up for a Battle of Ontario against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Sens have done well against the Leafs here this year. Obviously I know they're not going to be too picky. They're happy to be in the playoffs and will play anybody, but I would think that's their preference. So they really came in tonight's game wanting to play a physical style of game. Brady Tkachuk's still out of the lineup. Hayden Hodgson comes in, ended up having a big fight with Michael Pezzetta. Sens went on to win 5-2, so they get a 5-point gap now between Montreal and Ottawa. So Ottawa's a lot more secure in wildcard 1. Montreal's still not clinched, so not a given yet, but it's looking more and more likely that a Battle of Ontario will be a playoff matchup, and the Montreal Canadiens, should they hold on, which I suspect they will end up playing Washington. But the Canadiens still need one more point to clinch. Detroit was the only team chasing them tonight in the East to play tonight, and they won in overtime against Tampa, so they are still technically alive. If the Habs would have picked up at least a point tonight, they would have eliminated Detroit, Columbus, the Rangers, and the Islanders, but that didn't happen. So another day we'll have to go on here. Montreal plays Toronto tomorrow night. They will be playing their backup goalie, Jacob Dobish, as well. I know in the past he had a stretch where they kind of seemed like uncomfortable playing him, but he did do better his last game. We'll see if they can beat the Leafs or not. Obviously, if they don't win tomorrow night, they won't clinch, and it'll just make things more interesting. But even getting a point against Toronto, we'll put the X beside their name here. The Boston Bruins also confirmed that Charlie McAvoy is not going to return this season. He is done and out, so don't expect him back. There's no point in meaningless games for him to rush back. And New Jersey head coach Sheldon Keefe also was asked about their decor. They actually dropped the game here tonight. The Devils losing against Pittsburgh, and was asked about Seamus Casey, if he was likely going to be in the lineup come playoff time. And Keefe confirmed that they're expecting Dougie Hamilton back. So that will kind of take a spot from one of their youngsters there. So interesting to note that Dougie Hamilton expected to return. A few other updates too around the NHL. Gabriel Landeskog playing a hockey game tonight for the first time in over 1,000 days. Last played when the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 2022. Ended up having a unique knee surgery in 23 after missing an entire season. Ended up trying something different to get the knee back, and it's taken 2 years of recovery, but he's at a point now. We talked yesterday that he was sent to the AHL affiliate Colorado Eagles for a conditioning stint, and he practiced, had a good hard practice, felt good, so he's in the lineup tonight playing a game. A bunch of his teammates and staff members of the Avalanche are there to watch. Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, I think Josh Manson, Ross Colton, and there could be others. Those guys are all spotted at the arena. Chris McFarland, I believe, is in attendance as well, and Andrew Cogliano. So obviously lots of support there for Landeskog, and lots of hope that it's going to go well and that he might be able to rejoin his Avalanche teammates at the NHL level for the playoffs, which would be a massive emotional boost for that team. They're already a powerhouse, and to get him back would be absolutely huge. So we'll see how things go with Landeskog. We'll probably have a better idea, probably tomorrow after he's had a chance to finish that game. How does it feel when he wakes up tomorrow? How's the knee doing? We'll see how things go. But so far, so good. And hopefully it goes well for him. It's been such a long, hard battle. I certainly wish him nothing but the best and hope it works out to get back. Another couple of signings, or one that's not official yet, but is expected to happen here over the weekend. Carolina have signed one of their top prospects, Alexander Nikishin, who was actually teammates with Ivan Demidov in the KHL, playing for the same team. Ended up getting his release from his KHL contract as well, and has now signed a 2-year ELC with the Carolina Hurricanes after that release was made official earlier this morning. So, of course, Nikishin gets a 2-year deal. He's a little bit older, so doesn't get the 3-year ELC. But he's been a top prospect for Carolina. They've been patient with him. They have had lots of trade offers as well. When they've been making deals the last couple of years, especially, whether it be at the trade deadline or trying to make improvements over the summer, especially that deal when they got Jake Gensel. The Penguins did push to try to get this guy. They would not move him, and they're happy now that they held on to him. He was the captain of the team in the KHL, a very physical defenseman that has some good offensive upside. So to me, I think he will debut based on what we've heard. Most likely not until the playoffs. It's not expected for him to play in their last couple regular season games. Has to go through the paperwork of getting all of his work, visas and all that. So it's hard to say exactly. I mean, maybe it happens, but most likely not until the playoffs. So Nikishin's officially under contract. And the Minnesota Wild are expected to sign a top prospect from the 24 draft, Zeev Buium, whose University of Denver team was unfortunately eliminated last night in the Frozen Four. The Frozen Four tournament, of course, is to help crown a national championship in U.S. college hockey. We had the Western Michigan Broncos taking on the University of Denver Pioneers. And then, of course, we also had in the other matchup, BU against Penn State. BU pulled out a win there. And then, of course, as did Western Michigan. So Buium's now season is over with Denver. The defending champions will not be winning again this year. So it's expected that he's going to sign a contract with Minnesota over the next 48 hours and most likely get into an NHL game next week before the playoffs. And, of course, as long as they clinch, which is looking good right now, then he will be available to them in the playoffs as well. So he was at the ceremony tonight where they named the Hobey Baker winner because he was one of the finalists. Unfortunately, didn't win, but still had a phenomenal season. There's really nothing more for him to gain. Except Bill Guerin and the Wild have already said they're expecting the player to meet up with the team here in the next day or so, get his contract signed, and get into the lineup. Imagine Buium and Brock Faber as a tandem for the next decade plus is going to be a problem for the rest of the NHL. That is going to be one of the better tandems, at least it projects to be, around the league. So that's going to be fun to watch for sure. And like I said, speaking of Hobey Baker nominations and finalists, Isaac Howard, the top prospect for the Tampa Bay Lightning, was announced tonight as the winner of the 2025 Hobey Baker Trophy. Now, he wins that over Ryan Leonard and Zeev Buium, who I think probably were the best contenders to possibly win this award. I really thought Ryan Leonard would win. To be honest, I thought he had the best season, but, obviously Isaac Howard had a really good year for Michigan as well, and right now, word is he's going back because he can't come to terms, or has not been able to come to terms at his negotiations with the Lightning. And he did an interview as well, which I saw some comments from, and he said it wasn't that they couldn't see eye to eye and come to terms on a contract, but he said he wasn't demanding like immediate NHL action or like a roster spot with so much playing time. Like, it wasn't anything like that. He didn't really go into details, but he did say that that wasn't the problem. So is it perhaps, the rookie bonuses had something to do with money then? That's what it tells me. But he's in his third year of college. It was a 22 draft pick. He can have one more year before he becomes a free agent, which will be next year in August, mind you. So the Lightning have lots of time to sign him. But to be honest, based on how negotiations went and based on what the kind of talk is around the league, there are some people now expecting that there's a good chance that Isaac Howard could end up being traded. I mean, the Lightning are a deep team. Not to say that they couldn't benefit from having him in their lineup. He's a good player. They do need some youth coming up as some of their other top players, get a little bit older here. But it wouldn't be shocking if Isaac Howard is moved. After this negotiation went poorly, I do wonder if that's going to be a possibility. We don't know exactly what the Lightning are going to end up doing in the offseason. Certainly, I think they've had a stronger season than some of us might have predicted. I thought they might be I didn't think it would happen to them like what happened to Boston with the major step back, but I thought they would step back a little bit and maybe be more of a wild card team. But they've really had a good season. They really are well coached and have a deep team. And some of the moves they've made, especially at the deadline, has made them be even better. So they're going to be a handful in the playoffs, no doubt. And it's going to be tough for guys like Howard to crack that lineup. So we'll see what happens here. But it wouldn't be shocking if Isaac Howard does become a trade piece this summer, whether it be at the draft or heading into free agency. We'll see. Things can change. But that's my opinion on that situation here right now. Now, of course, like I mentioned, a couple other rumors around the league. Brock Boeser, of course, we know, has made comments saying he's not expecting to re-sign with the Vancouver Canucks. There was some speculation today about where might he go. Of course, he's been forever linked to his hometown Minnesota Wild team. I mean, that would be a homecoming that I'm sure he'd be open to if the Wild come calling with a contract offer, but hard to say for sure if that happens. If not, another team that's been brought up as being a likely destination, or at least a team that will want to, really seriously consider getting this done, would be the Rangers. A couple of things. One, he has a history of playing with JT Miller from their Canuck days. They had good chemistry at times. I don't think Boeser had any issues with Miller personally. I think they worked well off each other. The Rangers are expected to be a team to make some significant changes. We've talked about how head coach Peter Laviolette could be a casualty here, might be let go. We know that some of their veteran players like Chris Kreider or Mika Zibanejad are expected to be possibly traded, or at least they're going to talk to them about waiving their trade protection, things like that. So we could see a couple of veterans moved out, and really, if they are able to do that, bringing in a guy like Boeser makes a lot of sense to form a new core, and obviously has history there with Miller, so it would make sense. He's expected to get around $8 to $9 million per year on a longer-term deal in free agency, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if the Rangers are a team that comes calling for his services. Now, speaking of the New York Rangers, we know that there's a possibility, like I said, of Laviolette being let go, and there's already people talking about the possibility of John Tortorella going back there. And we know that Tortorella obviously had a run with that team before. Legendary times talking with Larry Brooks. We've heard lots of clips of him in the past and how those two would kind of have their spats. But yeah, I mean, we don't know, obviously, what the Rangers are going to do. No guarantee that they do fire Laviolette, but it sounds like there's a pretty decent chance from what the NHL insiders are saying. And Tortorella is obviously a known coach to be hard on that team. He can kind of push buttons and get the best of the players, usually, not always on a long-term basis. But after he was let go in Philly, there's a lot of people are still convinced he would still be interested and want to coach. It's a place he has history with. No, not a given that happens. Of course, Laviolette hasn't even been officially let go yet. But look for John Tortorella's name to be popping up in the Big Apple should they decide to move on from Laviolette. And some of these coaches that we could be hearing about, the season's less than a week away from being done. For the teams that missed the playoffs, you quite often will get coaches being let go pretty quick because the teams want to start their search for their new replacement right away, so they have ample time to do it. And it's only fair if they're going to make that choice to let their old coach have more time to find work as well. So usually when the regular season comes to a close, amongst the non-playoff teams, usually within the first week, you get, at least a handful, 2-3 coaches usually end up getting let go. So we'll see what happens, but that's certainly a situation I think worth monitoring there for sure. Now, of course, Pierre LeBrun's also talking on TSN Insider Trading about the possibility of the Bruins moving on from GM Don Sweeney. He's been there for a long time. He's got like a decade in. They've had some good successful seasons, but things have kind of come to a crash here. And, is it time for a new regime change in Boston? The fact that he said that there hasn't really been anything from the team to kind of give a vote of confidence or to come out and confirm that there won't be changes kind of has people talking about the possibility that he could be let go. To be honest, I know Don Sweeney's a GM, but I honestly think Cam Neely calls the shots there. And I don't think that Don does any deals or makes any decisions without Neely being okay with it. So if they're going to move on from Sweeney, I really think they need to move on from Neely too. They are a one-headed monster. And if it's time for a change, then I think they need a full regime change. In my opinion, I know that they're most likely going to have a new head coach. I don't think Joe Sacco will return as a head coach. He may go back to being an assistant. He was well liked and respected in that organization after a longer tenure there, so that's a possibility. But wouldn't be shocking if they do come out and announce a regime change. But I'm not 100% given it's going to happen. I was a little bit surprised to see Pierre LeBrun bring this up on Insider Trading. I think after handling the NHL trade deadline the way they did, they traded obviously a lot of veteran players, made a lot of moves to really reshape this team. And if they were allowed to do that, then to me, if they were going to make a change, wouldn't he have already done it? And, maybe not allow them to handle that, but not all teams really know what they're going to do. Some are slower making decisions. I mean, it's, I'm sure the Bruins front offices, they always, demand a lot more results than what they've given. And there's a good possibility the Bruins might be dead last in the East. That's quite a fall from grace from 2 years ago, being by far the top team in the NHL during the regular season. So we'll see what happens, but changes could be happening with Boston. Same could be happening with the Islanders. I know Chris Botta has been calling for regime change there. If you follow Chris Botta on social media, look at his post or check out his podcast or anything. He's been pretty outspoken lately about the fact that the Islanders need change, and a lot of fans are saying, if they don't go with any change and don't get a new regime here, what does ownership even really care? They can't really be too concerned about putting a better product on the ice. It's time for Lou Lamoriello's reign there to come to a close. Like Botta was saying, why is he getting so much rope here? Yes, he's an NHL legend, but he's not their legend. He didn't do legendary things in their franchise. It's all done elsewhere. Came in with a great resume, long, storied resume at that. But what has he done with the Islanders? I mean, obviously him and Barry Trotz was a large part of the success that they saw when Tavares first left, and they went on a decent run there for a few years. Had a couple of good playoff runs. They were a really strong defensive team, good goaltending, but the roster has not had enough turnover This team has been mid at best for a few years now. Between missing the playoffs or going out early, they need a more significant retool. And, I don't know that Lou's the guy to do it, but, I think ownership really does need to step in there. I really do agree with the sentiments from Botta that it's time. It's past due. It was time a long time ago. So we'll see what happens, but we could see a few teams here like Boston or New York that finally makes the plunge here, and we might see some new GMs. I know another GM that's without a contract is the LA Kings GM Rob Blake. He's on an expiring deal, but he's not. That was at his own choosing. He chose not to talk contract throughout the year. Expectations are he's most likely going to work out a contract extension. It's a great relationship with the team and President Luc Robitaille, and expectations are there that he will likely be back and signing an extension. Of course, they've had a good season this year. Is this a year that LA finally beats Edmonton in the playoffs? Wouldn't be shocking the way things have gone for both clubs this year. And lastly, I want to touch on the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. Obviously, Matthew Knies has been a hot topic. Had a big game there for the Leafs over the Lightning the other night. Certainly showed that he's a big part of that team. And he, after their previous loss to the Panthers, made some comments and even called the team soft. And he had to come out and respond and kind of lead by example after that. And being a young guy, that takes a lot of, gumption to say that. And he did, and he backed it up, and which is good for him. And he's becoming a bigger part of that team. Him with Matt Marner and Matthews have been phenomenal lately. So the big thing around Knies is that he needs a new contract. And there's a lot of talk and debate around offer sheets. Well, Chris Johnston of TSN and Insider Trading, and of course also has his own podcast, was talking about Matthew Knies on the latest TSN Insider Trading edition, and said as far as he knows, the player and his agent have absolutely no desire to entertain an offer sheet. So Leaf fans really shouldn't be panicked over that. It's expected that Marner is the top priority, with Knies coming after because of Marner being a UFA where Knies is not. So they have more time. But, is an offer sheet possible? Yeah, sure. There's going to be teams out there with cap space that are, if you look at, teams that are expected to maybe go down that route, right? We've heard about a handful of teams that are going to have space and will likely try it. But the player has to be receptive to it and agree to sign it, or it's useless. And according to CJ, the player has no desire to go down that route and will, certainly be more patient with getting a deal done with the Leafs. A lot of fans, I think, are thinking that it's going to be in the $8 million range. I wouldn't be shocked if it's maybe closer to 6.5, 7. But then again, that's what I predicted about a week ago. But then he had a few more goals, and the price tag just keeps going up. But with the cap rising, for him to be an $8 million player is not completely out of the question. But I would hope that if that was going to be the case, that maybe they do a bridge deal to bring that AAV down, because at $8 million to keep Marner and Tavares at the numbers that they're going to be valued at, it's going to be tough to get all three signed and really be able to do anything else. But I guess good news for Leaf fans is that there appears to be no desire on Knies' camp to even entertain an offer sheet, and that's the first step to having it be successful, is have the player's interest peaked to be considered signing it. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.